Hello, everyone, and welcome to For the Love of Animals, a presentation of Pinellas County Animals Services at Inspiration AM 1110 WTIS. I'm your host, Len Szynski from the Pinellas County Communications Department. For the Love of Animals is a celebration of our connection and commitment to all things animal-related in the Tampa Bay area. And during the next hour, we'll be sharing with you information about the animals we love and the services and programs provided by Pinellas County Animal Services. You know, we talk a lot about cats and dogs on this program because there are a lot of cats and dogs out there. We've talked about the fact that some neighborhoods are seemingly overrun by colonies of feral cats that create problems for residents, wildlife, birds, and the residents' own pet cats and dogs. But there is a plan afoot to humanely reduce the numbers of feral cats in Pinellas County, and it just might happen through the efforts of MEOW Now, which stands for Managing and Ending Overpopulation Wisely Now. And with me today, representing MEOW Now, is Martha Boden, CEO of the SPCA Tampa Bay. Martha, hello, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me.
My goodness, good to have you on the program.
I'm pleased to be here.
And MEOW Now is kind of an interesting name for a collection of community partners in the Tampa Bay area. So first of all, tell me, who comprises MEOW Now?
Well, I have to say it was started, honestly, by Dan Hester, who's a very active animal welfare advocate and an engaged community citizen. And he pulled together myself at SPCA Tampa Bay, Sarah Brown and Abby Kamleiter at Humane Society of Pinellas, and Kathy Unruh, who's a local notable, I think, an author and a cat lover and a media personality, and then Marilyn Weaver, who's also been very, very involved in the animal welfare community here.
So you've got some very prestigious people on board.
I think so. I'm happy that they included me.
Yes, indeed. Well, now, we first heard about MEOW Now in a Board of County Commissioners meeting in September where the problem of overpopulation of cats and dogs came to the fore. And a lot of impassioned people came out. Initially, they were advocating mandatory spay-neuter as a way of controlling the overpopulation of cats and dogs. The commissioners were a little cold on that idea. They didn't like the word mandatory. But then all of a sudden, MEOW Now came to the fore. So was this group organized already beforehand, or did you just organize because of the issue coming up before the board?
Well, we've been talking in this community about options for free-roaming cats for a long, long time. It's been a challenge, though, to get any real dialogue going because of the ordinance that's in place right now.
Right.
So one of our issues was, can we get to a forum where that might be discussed, that the ordinance could be changed? Once we realized that that was part of what was going to be considered at that workshop, we said, well, let's get together. We know that the folks at Animal Services have to put together kind of an overview of what is Trap-Neuter-Vaccinate-Return. How does that really impact a community? But we wanted to come in and say, here's a group that's ready to start to do it if we can work in partnership with all of our colleagues to make something happen.
And it did seem to gel. Seemingly, at that very meeting, it all kind of gelled and just came into focus, and you were charged with going out and coming up with a workable plan. Before we talk about that, though, let's talk about Trap-Neuter release, or in this case, Trap-Neuter-Vaccinate release.
We actually say Trap-Neuter-Vaccinate-Return. It's
important
to use that language because we do try to get them back to where they came from.
Well, tell me what that is. Explain how that works.
So the concept behind Trap-Neuter-Vaccinate-Return, or TNVR, you'll often hear it described that way, is we have seen in many, many communities, not only all over the U.S., but all over the world, that if you're trying to reduce the population of free-roaming cats, simply taking them out and moving them or euthanizing them tends to create a vacuum, and Mother Nature doesn't like a vacuum. So she refills it sometimes with even more. You'll see increased litter sizes. You'll see more animals coming in thinking there's free territory. What TNVR does is actually you would trap an animal, and the reason sometimes we have to trap them is because they're not animals you can handle very easily.
Sure.
So you'd have to trap them humanely. You want to get them into a facility where they can be neutered and vaccinated so they can't reproduce and they can't spread disease. And then you want to return them back to where they were so that that colony cannot reproduce anymore but can sort of stay and manage its boundaries. What we found is over time those colonies will shrink, but more cats won't come in.
And you're saying that it's important to return them. I mean, once you have them, they're already here, they're already captured, they're already in an animal services facility, if you will. Return returning them almost seems counterproductive to solving the problem.
Well, in reality, they're living very well outside. If we can find a way to coexist with them, just like those issues we're struggling with some of the other animals in our community, coyotes and those sorts of things, if we can find a way to coexist with these animals, they will take care of themselves in a better way than our animal shelter systems can.
And, of course, over time, the numbers will be reduced simply because they cannot reproduce.
Because they cannot reproduce, and they manage their boundaries. So it does seem sort of counterintuitive, but honestly, if you return a colony of, let's say, 30 cats back to the space where they created their colony, it's their territory, if you will. They will protect it. They will keep it their space. But then over time, the numbers will decrease. And this has been measured and managed all over the country.
Now, will other cats come in to be attracted to the food source or whatever is attracting them in the first place? Will other animals come in to fill that void over time?
Not typically, which is what's kind of interesting. A good colony is managed by somebody, so it isn't just we put the cats back and we walk away. Part of the program that MEOW now is trying to put into place is to establish a colony tracking database so we can start to understand where are these pockets of animals, who would be willing to manage them, and can we make sure that there's a long-term strategy in place to oversee what's happening. So if there are some concerns about other cats coming in, we can address it.
I read about that on your website, and it struck me as odd. How could you manage a colony of wild stray cats?
Well, the people who are involved with colony management actually know the animals in their colony. They are identifiable. Now, maybe you have a couple of black cats, and they might be a little hard to tell apart. But in general, they'll know the ages and the colors and the personalities of the animals in that colony. And they're there frequently enough, which may be once a week or so, but maybe more often depending on the environment, to check on those animals, see who's there, see if anybody looks like they've been injured or there's something else going on. So they actually, even though they're not necessarily picking them up and handling them, they keep track of who's there, and they make sure that things are moving in the right direction.
Interesting. Now, one of the criticisms, and we heard this at the board meeting, was that you can't do it by onesies and twosies. You have to neuter and spay a huge number of stray cats in order to make an impact on the stray cat population. Do you agree with that? Is that true?
We do know that this is a numbers game to some extent, but we've also seen, even in communities as close as Hillsborough County, that if you get this started and you keep working at it over the course of even 5 years, you will start to see a decrease in the number of animals coming into shelters. And that's one measure that we can track more easily. It is tricky to count how many free-roaming cats there are. As you know, the estimates range pretty widely. But we know that there are tens of thousands of cats coming into our shelters right now. If we can do something that has an impact, like we've seen in other communities, to reduce those numbers, that's going to be a huge positive.
Has this worked in other markets?
It has, and it has worked very well. Like I said, Hillsborough County is a great example. Jacksonville, Florida is doing some amazing stuff, but literally all over the country, and not just urban environments, but rural environments, suburban environments. But what it takes, and this is part of why MEOW now is proposing this pilot program, is it takes a community that wants to do it. We believe, from the conversations we have every day with volunteers and citizens, folks like yourself, that this community is looking for non-lethal ways to manage this process, that trying to just go out and capture all these animals and euthanize them is not what people want. They'd rather see the animals safe, find a way to coexist with them, and make sure that they stay healthy, but they manage their own population. That's what MEOW now can do. But the reality is there are tens of thousands of cats that are living outside right now that are never going to come into somebody's home.
Yeah.
And if the alternative is trap them and euthanize them, as compared to trap them, vaccinate, neuter them, and return them to a place where they are living in some fashion now, we think that's a better alternative. Now, we do, when an animal is trapped, one of the things we do is assess them to make sure, is this animal healthy enough to go back into a colony? We're certainly not going to put into a colony an animal that's already suffering.
Let them live their lives and look toward the long-term solution.
Yes.
You were charged with coming up with a business plan. How's that coming, and when next might you go before the board?
Well, we are working diligently, all 6 of us, but you know how that is when it's a small group of people trying to do this in their spare time. We have a draft of the plan that we're circulating amongst our members, and we're working through all of the issues. We want to make sure we address the concerns that came from the Commission. We'll actually work with Mo Franey at Animal Services to kind of go through some drafts to make sure it's really right before we pass it back to the Commission.
And, of course, in return, Pinellas County promises to relax some of their ordinances regarding wild animals and feeding wild animals and releasing wild animals back into the wild. So you guys can be working together, hopefully, as partners to come up with this long-term solution.
Right. Really, nothing can happen until those ordinance changes are made. So we want to put together a business plan that gives them the confidence that we're going to put something in place in the next year and really test the community's interest in this. That's a big part of this. Is MEOW now needs to see the rest of the community, not just the 6 of us, get engaged and say, yes, this is what we want.
Well, judging from what I saw at the meeting, you've got a lot of people in your corner, and a lot of people want humane treatment of these animals as a way of solving the problem.
Well, and programs like this are a huge benefit to us, so thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Martha, for joining us today in today's program. I'd like to thank my guest on this part of the program, Martha Boden, CEO of SPCA Tampa Bay and a member of the Board of Directors for MEOW Now, Managing and Ending Overpopulation Wisely Now. And we would encourage our listeners, if you have any comments or questions on anything we've talked about on this program, send us an email, animals@pinellascounty.org, and we'll share your concerns on a future edition of For the Love of Animals. Well, coming up after the break, anybody you know out there want to become a veterinarian? Well, our favorite veterinarian, our own Dr. Caroline, shares some advice when we come back. And we're back. Welcome back to For the Love of Animals, a presentation of Pinellas County Animals Services at Inspiration AM 1110 WTIS. I'm Len Szynski with the Pinellas County Communications Department. You know, people love animals, and that includes all the volunteers that give so much of their time to interact with the dogs and cats at Pinellas County Animal Services, as well as the teen volunteers, many of whom envision a career for themselves in veterinary medicine. Well, it's a long journey going from taking care of one's own pet to taking care of hundreds of pets in your own veterinary office. But with me today to share some career advice on the subject is our own Dr. Caroline. Dr. Caroline, hello.
Hi, Len.
How are you once again?
I'm well. How are you?
Oh, good. Good to have you on the program. Now, here is a subject that you are quite the expert in, how to guide somebody along if they want to be a veterinarian.
Yes.
A lot of people are interested. A lot of people I talk to at Animal Services, the volunteers and the teens, boy, that's what they want to do with their life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But let me ask you this. Where does it start? When does somebody know that that's his or her calling, they want to be a veterinarian?
That's a good question. I mean, I have some peers that knew they wanted to be a veterinarian since they could walk. There's other people like me who figured it out later on. But it can happen at any point. And there's even some people that are in other careers that decide, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore and I want to be a veterinarian. So it can happen at any point.
Okay, let's say you're a teen. You know, that's kind of where it starts. You've got high school to finish up. You've got college to finish up before you can even think about going to grad school, going to veterinary school. So while you're in this period, what sorts of classes and activities should you be involved in the high school and the college level?
Well, definitely a college preparatory course of work, and high school is important, focusing really strongly on math and science because those are a lot of the core skills that you need to do medicine. Also getting some experience shadowing or volunteering at a veterinary office or at a shelter, depending on what kind of veterinary medicine interests you, because a lot of people think that being a veterinarian is just playing with puppies and kittens. And while we do get to play with puppies and kittens, we have to deal with a lot of different issues too, from very sick animals to old animals and all sorts of things in between. And so kind of getting in there and seeing what the job is on a day-to-day basis to see, is this truly what I want to do, is a good place to start.
Well, and though that hands-on experience is invaluable, you know, looking over somebody's shoulder who is the expert, you can learn a whole lot just by watching somebody else do the work.
You sure can.
Is it hard to get admitted to a veterinary school? I mean, I was doing my research here, and it said there aren't a lot of good veterinary schools out there, and sometimes there's a waiting list, and only the cream of the crop get to attend.
It's very difficult to get accepted. And so students at any point that are looking to go to veterinary school need to make sure that their grades are a top priority. And it's actually harder to get into veterinary school than it is into human medical school. So it's a very competitive, very challenging school to get accepted into. And so you just have to be very committed to making sure that your coursework is a priority and that, you know, that you're able to excel in those classes.
So be a good student, whether you're in high school, whether you're in college, whether it's English or algebra, because those grades are going to be the determining factor.
It's so important when everybody else is goofing off or going to, when you're an undergrad, going to a party, making sure that you've got, that you're studying, that you've got your stuff together so that you're really preparing yourself to be successful.
Any schools to be avoided, like online schools, or, it seems like there's, for every discipline, there's a school that's going to make you a star in no time. Does that exist for the veterinary trade as well?
Not as much. If you're sticking within the continental United States and going to an accredited veterinary school, you're going to be just fine. Some of the schools that are out of the country tend to be more expensive, and so you really have to be very critical about how much your tuition costs and how much you're going to have to take out as far as loans as to whether that's a good decision for your career.
Our own St. Petersburg College here, which is a good partner with Pinellas County government on so many levels, they have a kind of a veterinary program, that big building right next to Animal Services.
They sure do, and they've got one of the best veterinary technology programs in the country. And students go there. It's a 2 or 4 year degree where they become a certified veterinary technician, which would be the equivalent of a nurse in human medicine. So they learn about all sorts of different things to do with animals, and is really, really a great path for somebody that maybe doesn't want the responsibility of being a veterinarian or doesn't want to make that kind of financial or time investment.
Well, I was going to ask you that. I understand that there are various levels of achievement within the veterinary field. You could be a vet tech or a vet assistant. Are those pretty good career choices as well?
Definitely. I recommend, if you want to make a career out of it, definitely getting the certification and being a certified veterinary technician or a veterinarian.
Does that come first? Like, is there a progression of levels that you go through?
Not always.
Okay.
There are some veterinary technicians that go on to veterinary school, but sometimes the coursework is a little bit different. What's required to be a veterinary technician as far as what's required to be accepted into veterinary school. So most people that want to be veterinarians kind of go along that path.
Now, say we're accepted to a good veterinary school, we go through the program, we graduate with our academic degree. What comes after that? What kinds of tests and licenses will I have to have before I'm a certified veterinarian?
Right. So there's a national board exam called the NAVLE that you have to take that's on all different types of species. So that's difficult, but that's the first thing that you have to do. And then depending on what state states you want to practice in, there are individual state exams unique to that state that you're going to be licensed in.
Does that take a long time to go through all that?
Not terribly. I was licensed right about the time I graduated, so I was able to get all of those testing done before I actually graduated from veterinary school.
I know it costs a lot of money to go through a veterinary program, and what do you do in the meantime? If you're not a veterinarian yet, what do you do in the meantime, kind of to support yourself? What do people do? It's
difficult, and I know I relied a lot on student loans, which I still have a considerable amount to pay back, and so as the cost of education goes up, that's always something that needs to be factored in, because there aren't a lot of scholarships available to go to veterinary school. So taking into account the amount of loans that you're going to amass is something to consider, not a reason not to do it, but just something so you make an informed decision.
So there you are, working at a fast food restaurant, dreaming of the day when you have your own veterinary clinic. What about large animals? Like on the farm, veterinarians are treating cows and horses and that sort of thing. Are there specialty areas that you can excel in?
Oh, sure. And depending on the veterinary school that you choose, I went to the Ohio State University, and we learned about all types of animals. Some veterinary schools do what's called tracking, so you only learn about large animals or small animals. So that can be factored into your decision as which school to go to. You also have the opportunity to take elective courses in a particular area of interest to kind of further your expertise. And then once you're done with veterinary school, many students or many veterinarians go on and do internships and residencies to specialize in a particular area. And so you can specialize in large animals or small animals. You can specialize in cardiology or ophthalmology, surgery. There's many, many different things that you can do with the degree. There's
certainly enough animals out there. When are you ready to open your own clinic? And I ask this because, so much of running any kind of a business is just the business of business, of knowing how to run a business, as well as, being an expert in whatever the business is dealing with. So when are you ready to open your own clinic with all that's involved?
And that's an excellent question, Lynn. And one of the things that veterinary school is so focused on is getting you ready to be a veterinarian. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're getting you ready to be a business owner or a manager. And those two skill sets are relatively separate. So veterinary school is making an effort to give more of those skills, but a lot of times even once you graduate, you don't have that skill set. So going to continuing education, I know some veterinarians that have masters in business to help gain those skills, doing some self-study and reading, I think is important to be ready to make that decision. And then the financial aspect of it. Veterinary practices are very expensive to purchase, and depending on your financial situation and how much you owe in school loans and things like that, that also factors into when you're able to do that.
So should you partner with somebody? Is that a good idea? Does that work out?
For a lot of veterinarians, it does. If you can find a good partner that you work well with, a business partnership is kind of like a marriage. So you need to make sure you're very compatible and you're on the same page. But a lot of veterinarians do partner together to kind of ease some of those responsibilities and make them a stronger team.
What about some of the offshoot career paths? For example, if you go into boarding animals or grooming animals or training animals, Does that happen sometimes? Do people have aspirations to be a veterinarian and maybe just can't make it or decide they don't like it, and then they can go into one of these other disciplines?
Yeah, and those are all really, really important things to do with animals. Some of those can be a little bit difficult because a lot of times those people are independent contractors or they're running their own small business, and so that can have some challenges there. But those can all be very, very successful, fulfilling career paths for people that want to be with animals, but maybe they don't have the stomach to do the medical side, or maybe some life events just prevent them from being able to go to school for the 8 to 10 years it takes to be a veterinarian.
But I would imagine if you know anything about animal medicine and behavior and that sort of thing, it's going to make you a better groomer or boarder or kennel operator or whatever you want to be.
Oh, definitely. Because if you're able to detect some of those issues and see some of those signs, then you can let your clients know, I think you need to see your veterinarian because I'm noticing this, or this. And a lot of groomers are really good when they see a skin infection or maybe an ear infection in the animal they're grooming. A really good groomer is going to tell the owner, hey, I noticed this. You need to see your veterinarian because it looks like it's going to need some treatment.
All right, to everybody out there, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. Thank you, Dr. Caroline.
Thank you, Lynn.
I'd like to thank Dr. Caroline for being with us on this segment of For the Love of Animals. Remember, if you have a veterinary question, simply email it to us at animals@pinellascounty.org, and we'll give you an answer on a future edition of For the Love of Animals. Well, coming up after the break, we'll find out more information about the pets we love and some of the important programs provided by Pinellas County Animals Services. Stay with us. Welcome back to For the Love of Animals. I'm Len Szynski from the Pinellas County Communications Department. A lot of big events at Pinellas County Animal Services during the year. For folks looking to adopt a pet, there are always special prices on pet adoptions and special activities pet owners can take advantage of. Coming up in December, perhaps the biggest event is their annual Pinellas Paws Cause Holiday Celebration. And here to tell us about the Paws Cause and all the events coming up at the Pinellas County Animal Services building is Pinellas County Animal Services Volunteer Coordinator Kelli Becraft. Kelli, hello.
Hi, Len. Thanks for having me.
Well, how are you?
I'm doing well today.
So good to have you here on the program here, because we have big news to share with our audience. It's coming up, the holidays. With Halloween, that means the holidays are right around the corner. They start to coalesce, and before you know it, it's Thanksgiving. Before you know it, it's December, and we are already getting ready for a very, very big celebration coming up in December. So why don't you tell us about the Paws Cause?
That's right, Len. On December 7th, we will have our second annual Pinellas Paws Cause, and that event will start at 10 a.m. We will have photo ops with Santa Claus, so you can bring your pet down for a suggested $5 donation and have your pet portrait taken with Santa Claus.
That says Santa Paws here in the flyer.
Well, we call him Santa Paws, but he's actually Santa Claus.
Oh,
it actually is but he's Santa Paws.
Like
that's how the animals know him.
Like a cousin, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
Yeah.
And then we're also going to have other events. We're going to have a parade, so you can dress your animal up, and we're going to walk through botanical gardens.
Now, I understand that's quite a sight to see. All these dogs dressed up in their holiday best.
Yes, that is.
Prancing through the botanical gardens.
Yeah, that is quite interesting. Well, the botanical gardens are beautiful, so it's a nice background area. And the animals will be walking through that nice area, getting out and getting their exercise for the day.
And it says Captain Barky here will be leading the procession.
Oh, yes, our favorite mascot, Captain Barky. Yes, Captain Barky will be doing several appearances throughout the day. He also will be available for photo ops for people that want to have their picture taken with Captain Barky.
And, of course, prizes will be awarded. It says here the best costume, the cutest costume, a lot of prizes to be given out.
And, Lynn, I have to let you know, that is for animals. That's not for humans.
Oh, I had a costume just picked out in my closet, the back of the closet I was going to put on. But if it's for dogs, cats too, or just dogs in this one?
Yeah, we do have some people that bring cats. Mostly
really?
they
Yeah.
bring dogs because cats don't do so well out into the public.
Truly. But it says here each pet will receive a doggy bag for participating, so everybody goes home with something.
That's exactly right. We get a lot of sponsorship, so we have little bags created that we give to you when you come to the event. But, Lynn, I have to tell you, before that event, we do have some other events that are coming up.
All right.
On October 19th, we will be at 2 different locations. Besides having adoptions every Saturday at our shelter, on October 19th, we will be at Dimmitt Chevrolet doing adoptions. They have a big event, and they've invited us to come out there.
Well, that's great.
And we're also going to be in Dunedin at their Wolfstock event. So that'll be 3 locations that Pinellas County Animal Services will have animals for adoption that day.
Now, what goes on at these off-site events, if you will?
We take different kinds of animals to the event. We will have cats and dogs at the event. and we just get them out to the public because not everybody can get down to the shelter to do adoptions. So it's mainly just animals that are available for adoption that day. Our adoption prices are $40 for all adult animals. They are $75 for animals 4 months and under, and also for animals that are 25 pounds or under. So that'll be the prices for the day. Well, actually for the month, and just come out to the event and you can adopt a pet if you can't get down to the shelter.
So if you don't find a Chevrolet for some reason, you might be able to find a cat or a dog and take that home as well instead of a new car.
Well, you can go ahead and adopt an animal and drive off in a Corvette.
Well, there you go. That's okay. You've sold me. That's how I'm going to plan my afternoon when that event comes along. Well, and these some events are for the day, some for the weekend, as you mentioned.
Yeah,
I know
and let me tell you about an event that we do every fourth Saturday.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know if you can't get down to the shelter. We're also at PetSmart in Largo.
Yes.
Largo Mall. We do adoptions there. We do them from 10 to 2, sometimes 3 if we're busy enough. We'll stay to 3 o'clock, and we take dogs and cats from the shelter down there, and we do adoptions there. Usually that special runs anywhere from $40 to $25.
And I understand you'll come home empty-handed because you'll find homes for all the cats and dogs you bring to that PetSmart.
That is correct. Sometimes we've had to make an extra trip back to the shelter to get some more animals for that event.
Because they're all animal lovers, and people kind of get inspired by seeing all the animals there and all the pet supplies.
Yeah, that's correct. You can adopt an animal and pick up the supplies that you need right there. It's one-stop shopping.
And, we were talking to Martha Boden earlier on in the program about spaying and neutering and some of the problems with the overpopulation of dogs and cats. We mentioned cats, but certainly there are a lot of dogs out there as well. A lot of these animals are just looking for forever homes, and certainly Animal Services is the first place to go looking if you're thinking of adopting a pet, adding a pet to your family.
Yes, that is correct. We have a huge selection. We have small dogs, we have large dogs, we have medium dogs, we have old dogs, small dogs, and every cat you can think of. We even end up with some purebred cats, some Persians, some Himalayans. So that would be the place you want to go, and prices are very fair.
And prices are sometimes even better than fair. They're below rock bottom sometimes.
Yeah, that's true.
Sometimes for a whole month. Frequently, for example, the dog days of August, there's spay and neuter month. In February, you'll have special prices on either adoptions or the services that go along with adoptions.
Yes, that's correct. I would check our website, PinellasCounty.org, to check out the prices because they do change periodically. We do run specials. Now, I do want to mention that all of our animals that are adopted, every one of them will be spayed or neutered before they're adopted. They all come with their rabies shot, county license. All the dogs have been tested for heartworm, and most of them are negative. If some of them are positive, then we go ahead and give you some treatment, and we keep up with that for the first 6 months as well. All the cats are tested for feline leukemia and feline AIDS, and they're all given their vaccinations. So it really is a good deal to go to your local shelter, Pinellas County.
And absolutely, and we've talked about that a lot on this program, the fact that these dogs and cats are ready to go. Of course, we recommend establishing a relationship with your own veterinarian.
Absolutely.
And I think you have a requirement to take the dog or the cat to the vet pretty early on when you get it home.
Well, we don't really have a requirement, but we do encourage you within the first 2 weeks to establish with a veterinarian. By doing that, if the animal should become sick, then it's not an emergency visit. Because if you have to make an emergency visit, as you know yourself, if you don't have a regular physician, it could cost you quite a bit of money. So establish early on, and then the visit won't be so much.
And plus, it's helpful for the vet to see the dog when it's healthy, to establish a normal behavior.
They form their own relationship as well.
Yeah, so that's really great. And I understand that adoptions really are up, that this has been a good year for adoptions for you all.
Yes, it has. It's been a great year. Again, we are also, all of our adoptions, not only at the shelter, at the events I mentioned as well, we also are in 7 different pet stores throughout the county. Pretty much all the PetSmarts. Mm-hmm. We're in the pet supermarket on East Bay. We're at Petco in Palm Harbor, Petco in St. Pete. They all carry our cats for adoption. So if you're looking for that special warm furry cat, you can go to any of those pet stores, and you're still adopting from Pinellas County Animal Services.
So this is in addition to the Saturday specials.
Yes, that is correct.
These animals are there all the time?
They're there all the time. They're our pet store partners. And because, as Martha was just telling you about the cats, the overpopulation, there's no way that we could adopt out all these cats out of our shelter. So we formed relationships with all these pet stores, and we keep that up, and we just keep taking animals there because they get adopted so graciously.
And once again, making it convenient for people to find the animal of their dreams and find the cat or dog the home of their dreams.
That's correct.
At one of our partner agencies, yeah. And I know the staff at Animal Services does such a good job of guiding some of these folks along and getting them connected with just the right pet.
Yeah, that's another thing, because sometimes, you look at an animal and you think that might be the pet for you. But depending on, how many people live in your household, depending on, do you have a yard? Do you have to walk the dog? So we do have professionals there that can help you out and let you know what animal would best suit your family.
Now, it's a pretty easy process, I guess. If I go to Animal Services and I just fall in love with a little dog, little dog in the area there, and that's it. That's the dog for me, and I want to take it home. Pretty easy. There's no red tape to have to deal with. It's
there's
quick.
no real red tape. We just want to make sure you own your own property. And if you don't own your own property, then we want to talk to your landlord, because, again, we want to make sure these pets have a forever home.
Yeah.
So we don't want them coming back to the shelter. So we want to make sure that the pet is allowed to be there on the property. So that's pretty much it. We just want to make sure that, and then we want to make sure any other pet you have, cat or dog that is current on a rabies shot and county license.
And I get the license. The dog or cat has a license already. What about a microchip?
All of our adoption animals do come with a microchip. That is
Okay.
included in the adoption price as well.
And we have been telling people on the program here that if you move, if you have a county license and you move, you have a microchip, make sure that Animal Services knows your new whereabouts so they can keep the database current.
Right. You can always call us, and we can update the system, keep your information current. And with the microchip, you also want to call the microchip company and update that, especially if you move out of county.
And I know we talked about the fact that if you do move out of county, you do have to register. You have to get a new county license from the new county.
Yes, you'll have to check with that county and see what their requirements
So
are.
Pinellas County pet licenses are only good in Pinellas County.
That's correct.
If you move someplace else, then you have to do the paperwork and make sure your cat or dog is current within that county, and that's something very important. I think people have to remember.
Yes, that is correct.
Well, you have a wonderful facility. It's an interesting place to visit. You've got the pet mural out there in the lobby, and that's certainly inspiring.
Yes, it is.
Which is growing larger and larger
Every
day
day
by
it's
day.
growing more animals, yes. And that's just for a $100 donation. You could have your pet put up on the wall.
And I understand, going back to the Pinellas Paws Cause Celebration, that the artist, Ann Fields, her name is now,
Yes,
will be
Ann.
there offering special holiday portraits.
On December 7th, you can pay a $75 fee and have your animal put up on the wall there.
All right, let's remind people of that one more time. Saturday, December 7th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., the Pinellas Paws Cause Holiday Celebration 2013. Right there at Pinellas County Animal Services. And what's that address again, Kelly?
Our address is 12450 Almerton Road, Largo, Florida, 33774.
And the website is pinellascounty.org/animal services.
That is correct.
All right. Well, thanks to my guest this time around, Kelli Becraft from Pinellas County Animal Services. We've been talking about special events at Animal Services, each one a special reason to visit that facility. Well, coming up after the break, we go to the mailbag to answer some questions about animals in Pinellas County when we come back. Well, we're back. Welcome back to For the Love of Animals. I'm your host, Len Szynski, and joining me right now is Pinellas County Animal Services Animal Control Officer Pat Callahan. Pat, hello. How are you?
How are you? I'm doing fine.
Oh, good. You're new on the program here.
Yes.
But we're very, very happy to have you here at the mailbag segment. And this, of course, is when people write in, email in usually, and have all kinds of problems with animals in their neighborhood. And we go over these and see if we can give them some advice or get an idea of how you all at Animal Services respond to these problems and issues that come in through the mailbag. So the first one here, I've got Don from Largo, Florida. Now, he's new to the area, it says here. He says he has a wild animal problem. I think it lives under my trailer, he says. The footprint is 4 inches long and 3.5 inches wide. Can you help me?
When we get something like that, we email him back and ask him for either a better description. We give him suggestions on, like, call a wildlife trapper if it's a wild animal.
So all he knows is when he peeks under the trailer, he sees two red beady eyes staring back at him. So your advice is to maybe call a wildlife trapper. It's on private property, after all.
Correct.
And get the wildlife trapper to render an opinion.
Yes.
All right. So, Don, you'll have to pick up the phone and check the yellow pages. All right. Here's an email from Douglas from Pinellas Park. And Douglas says, okay, we're talking about coyotes. Douglas says, at the east end of 85th Avenue in Pinellas Park, off of 66th Street, there is an undeveloped 5 to 6 acre plot of land. And on this property, there's a litter of 4 to 5 coyote pups plus the adult female. Now, he says, what can Pinellas County Animal Services do to capture these animals? possibly the female. Now, the reason I think this is an interesting question is because we have talked about coyotes a lot on this program and that they're impossible to trap. So, ergo, Pinellas County Animal Services doesn't really do much in that regard. But here's a case where you have some young pups and a female who's with the pups, and they would be pretty easy to trap, I would imagine. What do you do in a situation like this? Do you try to capture the coyote pups if you know of their whereabouts?
At this time, no, we don't. The Fish and Game Commission has told us to treat coyotes like regular wildlife and to leave them alone. If there's a major problem and animals are being killed in the area, then they suggest that they go back to the private wildlife trappers, see if they can get a trapper to trap the animals and take care of them that way.
So you guys are just hands off.
We have
like that.
We have a site on our webpage where they can actually go and put their information in on a map with their address, name, everything like that to pinpoint where these coyotes are. But there are so many in the county at this point, we don't have the staff or personnel to go around and try and get them all.
All right. The next email comes from Nancy. Nancy says, she has a raccoon hanging out in daylight in a sewer at the end of her street. He's wandering in between houses at daylight, and she's wondering, does the city or county pick up these wild animals? She says they could be dangerous. She heard that if they wander around in daylight, they are sick. Don't know if this is true. Do you know if that is true? They're usually nocturnal, aren't they, raccoons?
Yes, they're usually nocturnal, but in this county, we've taken away most of their natural habitat, so they do come out during the day now, any time of the day. We call them urban raccoons, and they are living in sewers now. If they can find a way to get up in your attic, they'll be living in your attic.
Oh, yeah, wow.
They live in trees.
But it's okay. If you see a raccoon during the daytime, that is not an indication that it has rabies or anything like that.
Correct.
All right. Now, do you help to control the raccoon population? Do you furnish traps for raccoons?
We did up to a couple of years ago, and then we quit doing wildlife trapping and services altogether due to the budget cuts.
Because it used to be that a homeowner could set the trap and then you would come pick it up, but you don't do that anymore, you're saying?
Correct.
Oh, my goodness. So, once again, there is no recourse other than to call a wildlife trapper.
Correct.
And people have to understand that, I think. An animal on private property, we would not spend public funds to solve a private problem. And if the animal is under your house, say, or up in one of your trees, you're going to have to go to a private trapper to eradicate that animal.
Correct. And if it's in their attic, which is one of their favorite places to make their homes, is up in a person's attic.
So either your house is haunted or you have a raccoon in your attic.
Correct.
One or the other. Either way, Animal Services is not going to help you. All right, Jesse has an email here. Jesse says, I am with a local nonprofit that helps animals. We had been called out to a house for assistance with the dog's medical condition. When we arrived, the dog was in horrible conditions and flea infested. They helped to treat the dog, and the upshot of the letter is that they did not have the authority to take the dog away from the owner. They felt that the dog was being mistreated, but they did not have the authority to take the dog away from the owner, and they were wondering if Animal Services had the authority and could assist. My question to you is, if you respond to a situation like this, where obviously an owner is mistreating this animal, do you have the authority to rescue that animal, take it away from the owner?
It depends on the severity of the case. If they're willing to work with us, we do give them a chance to correct the situation.
Okay.
If they don't correct the situation in the certain amount of time that we give them to either get the animal treatment and show us that they've had the animal to the vet for treatment, then we can step in and, through the court system,
does that take a long time to do that? In the meantime, the animal is suffering?
It takes some time. It's not a long process, but there is a process to it. It's not like you see on Animal Planet where in the 30-minute segment where they're there in the next 30 seconds they're taking the animal. Something like that takes about 3 years that you see on TV sometimes. So
you do have to respect the rights of the animal owner.
Correct.
Regardless of the
situation. You got to give them a
situation.
chance to correct the situation.
But you're saying if it's an incredibly egregious situation, you can swoop in and rescue that animal and kind of save its life.
Yes, and we can charge them with animal cruelty if we need to.
Which is punishable by a trip to the county jail.
Correct.
I understand.
Yes.
Plus a hefty fine. All right, so if the condition warrants it, you can be the dog rescuer. Otherwise, you've got to follow what the courts dictate and go through the legal procedure.
Correct.
All right. Now, here's a kind of a related situation. Jonathan from Largo says that there is pit bull hoarding in a house where no one is home. I've heard where animals are living in vacant homes. People might have abandoned a home and leave the animal here. But here's a situation where you've got a vacant home and they're raising pit bulls in this home, as bizarre as that seems to be. And, the place is a mess, according to Jonathan. These dogs are having litters of puppies. There's animal waste all over the floor. They're certainly it's not fit for human habitation. He says they may not be fit for animal habitation as well. When you get a complaint like this, what do you do? The house is vacant. The owner is nowhere to be seen. What's your authority in this sort of thing, in this situation?
In a situation like this, we'd go out. We'd post the door. We'd look at the situation. We'd post the door with a 24-hour notice, give somebody a chance to respond back. If the house is vacant, we actually try to locate the actual property owner. If we don't get a response back within 24 hours, we're back out there, and then we can have the police meet us there, and we can actually remove all the animals that are there.
So it requires the cooperation, the partnership of law enforcement, then, in order for you guys to do this?
Yes.
But now, if somebody answers the little sticky note on the door, what do you do then? If somebody's obviously coming to at least feed the animals, at least, if not care for them properly.
They're going to have to explain to us why there's no power, why the house is empty, why the dogs are there to begin with.
So it is an issue.
And sometimes you do find out they're just squatters that move into a vacant house and they're just keeping their animals there.
Because this whole business with raising pit bulls, that is so egregious. It's cruel. It's nefarious, and people put these dogs through all kinds of mistreatment for who knows why.
Correct. Yeah, and it's not always a pit bull's fault. It's the owners.
Absolutely, and that seems to be the case. There are no bad dogs, just simply bad dog owners.
Correct.
All right, well, it's good to know that you guys are on top of that situation, doing what you can. All right, another one coming to the end of the session here, but Susan from Albany, New York. Okay, now she's up in Albany. She's living in Albany right now, and she's looking to purchase a condo in Pinellas County. She says here she has an indoor cat, and she's having a difficult time finding condo communities that accept pets. And she's wondering if we have any names or listings for her. Do we do that? Do we have because I know we were just talking to Kelli, and she says that you guys will check with landlords and apartment owners to see if they have a pet policy in their property. Do you have any sort of a list of pet-friendly condos or pet-friendly apartments or hotels that people can be guided by if they're looking to come into the area to live or to visit and they have animals with them?
For the condos, I don't believe so at this time.
Okay.
I know during hurricane season, we do have a list of pet-friendly hotels that will accept pets with their owners.
Okay.
And that list is good all year long for those hotels.
But basically, Susan is just going to have to make some phone calls and find a pet-friendly condo that she can bring her pet with her.
Yes.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our program. I want to thank our guest this time around, Pat Callahan, Animal Control Officer with Pinellas County Animal Services. You have been listening to For the Love of Animals, presented by Pinellas County Animal Services and Inspiration AM 1110 WTIS. Be sure to be with us next Saturday, 11 a.m. to noon, right here on Inspiration AM 1110 WTIS, for another episode of For the Love of Animals. And if you have any questions or comments on anything we've talked about on the program, just send us an email, animals@pinellascounty.org, or give us a call at area code 727-582-2600. For more information on Pinellas County Animal Services, including photos of the dogs and cats up for adoption this week, go to our website, pinellascounty.org/animal services. Once again, thanks for listening. I'm Len Szynski with the Pinellas County Communications Department. Join us next time for The Love of Animals.